it, but I said it first. So in a sense, I gave into this birth. That's why my fans in my show screaming, take me to church. No suit and tie, but baby, I go to work. Don't do it for the money, but that's one of the perks.
Hello and welcome to Folsom Field. I am Matt Smith for Mile High Sports. Thank you very much for tuning in. Well, it was the very hyped and vaunted rematch of the 2016 Pac-12 championship game, and it ended just about the same way that it did back in December. Actually, when I was coming down from that press conference just before doing this video, I thought to myself, well, it feels eerily similar to what I went through last December after the Buffaloes lost 41-10. Tonight it's 37-10, except the story, in my opinion, was different tonight. Because coming into this game, no one expected CU to win. At least I didn't, and I told you that on No Bull Just Buffs. But what we saw tonight was a Colorado team that proved they could compete with Washington, which is something we talked about in the podcast this week. They had to do that from Jump Street, and they showed up and did exactly that. An 11-play, 75-yard drive to start things off today, and the Buffaloes took the 7-0 lead. We felt, okay, listen, this is a team that is going to come out and compete with Washington. And then after a while, the offense just stopped executing as well as they did on that first drive, and turnovers would be the name of the game, as 3 interceptions from Steven Montez would pretty much seal it, and a very similar pick 6 to the one that Taylor Rapp had of Sefo Liufau to begin the second half back in December pretty much popped up again, and it was almost reincarnate. Just the one thing I'm going to say about this game, and I didn't do a big write-up on the post game because there's just not that much to talk about. The expectations for this program are really high. It is a what have you done for me lately world. This is a team that won 10 games last year. No one expected them to, but they did. Something I mentioned on the podcast, the way that this team looks right now is probably more like what we should have seen from them last season. However, 27 seniors, a ton of leadership, and the jump was made. But coming back down to earth a little bit this season, Steven Montez, in just his 7th career start, looked really good at the beginning of this game. We talked about it on the podcast this week. He's making the progressions that we've needed to see. But he also looked like a redshirt sophomore at times who hasn't played a ton in his career. I mean, the decision-making tonight just wasn't great, especially after coming off last week playing so well. That was slightly concerning to me, especially the way that he started this game. He started this game on a very good note, executing very well, making the throws, but putting touch on the ball is an issue that he's having right now. We saw it again tonight. Missed Devin Ross for a wide-open touchdown on a beautiful wheel route. That play was one that I want to bring up, and I'm sure plenty of fans remember that. Just up the left sideline, heading toward the north end zone here, Montez let Devin Ross leak out, let the play develop, had the maturity and the patience to actually take his time, but just couldn't hit Ross for what would have for sure been 6 points. That's the progression we're seeing from Steven. It's between the ears. Yes, he needs to be more accurate with the football, but we all knew that there was going to come a time when he was going to throw this team out of games. It's just when you play the style of football that he plays, you take risks, and sometimes those risks don't pay off, especially when you play a good football team. The bottom line of this game is you can only get so many chances to beat a really good team like that before they close the door on you, and that's exactly what happened. In the post-game press conference, Coach Mike McIntyre said that he was very disappointed that they didn't stop Washington's running attack better. Myles Gaskin, 27 carries, 207 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Of course, Lavon Coleman ruled out before this game, but Myles Gaskin had himself a great night once again. I'm not sure that I agree with Mike McIntyre. That UW offensive line is maybe top 5 in the country. They are really good. They average 6'5", 309 pounds, and this Colorado defensive line averages 6'3", 291 pounds. Those are some big boys that UW has up front, so I think that they should have stopped the run a little bit better. I mean, you'd obviously hope that, but I don't know how realistic that was. UW was getting push, all the push that they wanted to tonight, and they should. They're that much bigger than Colorado. I guess the point that I'm trying to bring up here is that the expectations that surround this program are high. And heading into the year, at least I predicted 7-5. Some at the high end said 8-4. But the truth is, at a 7-5, 8-4 team, they're going to lose games 37-10, like the Buffs lost tonight. This should be a big motivator and a humbler for this Buffaloes team, saying that, listen, your work is far from over. They go on the road for the first time next week to play UCLA after facing their first Power 5 competition in Washington. Also keep that in mind. This team hadn't faced another Power 5 school until tonight, and it just happened to be a top 10 team in the country with a redshirt sophomore quarterback. So I'm not making excuses here. The offense had every chance to make this game competitive, but they squandered them all. And you only get a certain number of those in games like these to beat good teams and to win games that you probably shouldn't. And Colorado tonight, unfortunately, could not get that done. But they're 3-1 after their first 4 home games in the state of Colorado. And I think you have to be happy with that start for the Buffaloes. Tonight, you would have liked to see them come out and compete, because right away it looked like they could. And it was just unfortunate to see that slide almost exactly the way it happened in December happened again. For this team, it is week to week. They have to continue to make those strides each and every game, and next week is another chance where they will go to the Rose Bowl for their first road game of this season in week 5. UCLA is losing, I believe, to Stanford right now, who's on their 3rd string quarterback from what I saw on Twitter. So the Pac-12 early is it's all over the place. That's the other thing you have to remember. This is college football. The one thing that you cannot count on 18 to 23-year-olds to do is be consistent. Even if it's consistently bad, that's like ASU tonight, beating Oregon. At least they were the last time I saw. I'm not sure how that game finished up. To wrap things up here, the Buffaloes still have a long ways to go. A win tonight was unrealistic, but I think you can take some good things from this game. Number one, the defense showed that they could prove themselves and match the physicality. They did end up, after a while, the floodgates open, but that's to be expected. The other thing I think you can take is the fast start, and the fact that you can tell that the Buffs game plan for this properly. The execution's just not there. The one concern I do have is the execution. And it's not just one guy or another guy, it's small little details, and I feel like it's across the board. This Buffs team has to make a conscious, and maybe it's what Stefo said to me 2 weeks ago on the podcast, that last year there was just a conscious decision made by that group of seniors to go out and make plays and to play for one another. That there's a lot of leadership that's gone, and the accountability that it takes to actually continue to build and get better on a week-to-week basis, it's earned, right? And it's also earned with the amount of snaps that these kids see. And a lot of these guys were playing behind a crowded position group for the majority of their careers. So this was really the first big test. Yes, the Buffs failed it, but at the same time, 3-1. This is a team that I thought was going to win 7 games. They're going to lose some. This was just the first of the season. I am Matt Smith for Mile High Sports. We'll get to plenty of game breakdown this week on No Bull Just Buffs, because the truth is, the Buffs did have a shot to win this game, but the offensive mistakes and the execution errors, you just can't overcome those in a game like this. Thanks for tuning in from Folsom. Until next time.